Hey guys, we're back and we're reviewing A Quiet Place 2. I can't tell you how excited we are to do this. Been waiting a year. I was just about to go see the movie. It was a few days away. I had my tickets booked, canceled. A year later, and here we are, A Quiet Place 2. This is a spoiler review, just so you guys know. So if you haven't seen it yet, go watch the movie in theaters. We saw it. We both saw it in theaters, and it is a amazing experience in theaters, especially with the sound system. So go check it out, then come back. With that said, let's get into it, Nick. Overall thoughts on the story. What did you love about it?
This is this is what sequels should do. This is so many times throughout this movie, I was like, this must have been what it was like when Empire Strikes Back came out, Aliens, Terminator, Judgment Day. I was like watching. I was like, so this is what a sequel should do. It expands in scope, it expands in world building, but without getting too ridiculous about it. It expanded on the heart. It kept everything in focus while just raising the stakes and raising just the level of what was happening. I'm trying to just recall, because I had so much I had such a great time watching this. This is John Krasinski's Argo in a way. You see Ben Affleck and Quiet Place One, you see the brilliance of Affleck and Krasinski in their directing, and then the second film they make, you see it really you see how much they've grown. You see the full length of it. Just the 20-minute prologue, I was and I don't know if it was just because I was the first time I was in a theater, but I was like, this is directed so freaking well. The score is amazing, the acting's all around great, and I think the last 10 minutes is probably my favorite sequence of this, one of at least top three favorite sequences of this year. That was visual storytelling at such a satisfying level. It was this is just, in my opinion, this is one of the best sequels ever made. This is up there with Empire, Dark Knight. This is how you should do a second chapter.
I mean, man, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start. It's so close to being as good as the first one. And the first one is one of my top 10 favorite films of the 2000s. It's that good. And this sequel does not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. It does everything, like you said. It expands the world, but it keeps the story intimate. These characters that we come to love, they bring in Cillian Murphy as one new character who fits into the world. And that 20-minute prologue explains to you exactly why what happened. How did the world in a single day go from being the regular world to just everything's gone dark?
Right.
And it does the beautiful job walking the line of explaining what happened without getting into the where did they come from, the why, the questions that inevitably unravel the story and will not meet your expectations.
Right.
They know what questions to answer and what not to. And man, when Emily Blunt turns that car in reverse and it's the creatures coming out of the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so intense. And then they cut to John Krasinski and Millicent Simmons, and the two of them are sprinting and they're running and they're running and they're running into that shop.
The sound and the sound design, where it's Millicent Simmons, it's dead quiet, and he grabs her at the chaos. I was I was watching, I was oh my god, that is just I know we're it's super early, the Academy Awards just finished up last year, but already I was this is a best sound design. Just for that moment alone, I would have nominated it without question. That was just so cool to experience. And there's and that's just the first of many similar moments that happen.
And when that cell phone rings and you're just oh shit. And John Krasinski just grabs Millicent Simmons and
they take
running
off
out the back door. They're the smart ones. Other ones are just staying there. These they know we're here. And the creature just goes slamming and jabbing through everyone. I'm just oh my god, this thing's impenetrable.
And John Krasinski, I see you using the one shots, and I respect that. A lot of mirror shots, a lot of just very creative takes in throughout this movie. And yeah, like just the one part of like them like running out of the, I don't know, dining area into the kitchen and like out the back, like that was like, she like he like hops a fence up, like she dives it, like I was like, oh my god, this
Yeah,
is like crazy, this is so good. It's such Krasinski, I have to give you like just so many shout outs. That was a great prologue.
it does such a great job getting you back into the story,
Mhm,
giving you what their backstory was at the same time,
mhm.
and giving you the context of the type of guy the father is, because the father is very important over the whole story, even though he's dead, because it's his legacy and what he was willing to do for his family.
Mhm.
And I think that sort of theme of like what you do for family is instilled in the kids,
Yeah,
in them growing up, and it's like a metaphor for growing up. Essentially, these kids are now forced to become full-on adults, and they
right.
are leaders in this story as well.
Mhm.
And I have to say, what a masterful job when they all split up, going on three different storylines.
Yeah,
And
I refer to that sequence as the everything that could go wrong does go wrong
yeah,
series of events, because that's basically what it was.
and everything makes sense. They know that not all of them are equally weighted. We know the one with Millicent Simmons is the most important,
Mhm.
but they play the intercutting between them. The editing is so beautiful, so the tension builds from one to the
Right,
other to the next, and it enhances the tension of the lesser moments.
right.
And it really, you're not like, oh well, I want to see what's happening here. It really paces itself back and forth and
Yeah,
back and forth, and you never lose your attention for the whole story. I thought it was just like spectacular storytelling on that level, and the
yeah.
performances. Millicent Simmons, I mean, man, for this film, I would think about nominating her. I really think she's that fantastic in the
I
leading role.
yeah, I think she's like, well, I'll double back for a quick bit and I'll come back to her. I'll say if there was ever like a gap in this film, it's kind of just, I would say maybe the logic of Noah Jupe's moment in that sequence. Just it's like, why did you leave with like a screwed up leg? But like it's also one of those things you're kind of like, I was, for at least me at least, I was like, all right, I'll look past the logic of why this guy chose to leave in the sake of how everything just to go along with the ride.
Yeah.
But I will say that was like one part where it's kind of like, that's a weird decision to make. But
See,
you
I even understood that because she said I'll be back in a few hours. It's clearly the daytime shift. It's been
yeah,
more than a
well
few
that's
hours.
yeah, that's what my friends were saying. They were saying like he was probably looking for the mom with like the binoculars and everything. So I was like, okay, that I can get behind that um explanation. And as for Millicent Simmons, like I really enjoyed her in the first movie, but like this is her movie 100,
She
like,
kills it.
and it's so incredible because it's like you have like Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, two actors like I absolutely adore, but like it's like no, this is 100% her movie. And I thought it was gonna be like, I was at first a little hesitant when she was like, I'm gonna, go like figure out what's going on. I thought, oh, is she gonna like, they're gonna have to go after her and like all that, but like it, she held her ground. She was probably the smartest person in this whole movie by far. She like, she was the most efficient, the most effective. I was like, this is her movie 100%. And I haven't seen the first movie in a while. I think I saw it for the first time like back in like January 2020, but immediately I felt like the momentum of like what happened in that one with her and John Krasinski like carry over into this one. And I was like, this is great. You just feel the connection overall.
Yeah, and how cool was it when they're opening back into the modern day and they're
Mhm.
walking through and Emily Blunt triggers the bottles going off
Yeah.
and she's just like run and they're running through. They know the monster's coming. He gets his leg trapped, Noah Jupe's character. Um, and you're just like, oh no, is he gonna die? Because this is a movie
Yeah.
where if he died, you'd be like, that makes
I
sense.
mean, yeah. I first the first like moment of when I was like, oh, this is like, this only could have happened in the theater. When his leg got caught, everyone in my theater like gasped, like
Yeah,
collectively, like jumped back. We're like, what? Like, because I thought he was like, it's such a perfect like pull the rug out from you under the moment, because it's just like, oh, like of course there's like a, like there, of course it makes sense there could be like a trap or something, but like when it just happens and you see like Noju like struggling to hold it in before like just like starts sobbing, and like Emily Blunt starts like sobbing too. She's like panicking
Yeah.
as well. I was like, we're only in the first half hour of this film, and I'm already like, this is incredible already. Like, acting's already incredible. Like, this is like insane. Like, so much happening.
I mean, and it sets the tone of everything. You can see how hard he's. That's a great acting performance in that moment. You can see how hard he's trying to hold it in, and he just can't. He's in too much pain. She's covering his mouth, and he's still screaming through it. I mean, and the way they pull him out of the trap, and they're
Yeah.
running, and the monster's coming, and then it's that moment where Millicent Simmons and her mom just have that moment of eye contact, and it's
Mhm.
like, let's do it. And we get to see her do the little thing with her microphone in her
Right.
ear mechanism, and we get to see Emily Blunt pump the shotgun, and this time we get to see her shoot it.
Right.
And man, that was so satisfying. And I love the POV of seeing Cillian Murphy with
Yeah, the
the
sniper.
hunter's
Oh,
rifle.
right.
Yeah, that was awesome. And it makes, that's another thing. There are like three of those creatures all in the same area
Mhm.
in like an instant. And I'm like, how many of these things are there?
Mhm.
It's just like slowly it shows you more and more without hitting you over the top of why these things are so killer.
Right.
In that whole scene and the way it plays out, I'm like, wow, that was such a stunning opening to the new, like, in the present.
Right. And like they left the house, like they are no longer safe, and like almost immediately they're like attacked, and it's but they don't sacrifice the like how to put it, like the ingenuity of the family. Like
Mhm.
they didn't need Cillian Murphy to save them. He was just watching. Like they still handled it on their own, which again was just really cool to just help set up
Yeah,
everything and them as characters going forward.
I 100% agree, and I think Killian Murphy does a fantastic job. His struggles with Millicent Simmons and being not quite a father figure, but
Mhm.
kind of stepping into that lane,
Yeah.
and it almost feels like a redemption for his character.
Mhm.
It really fits so beautifully into the story. And I have to tell you, you feel when you see the little girl put the noose over him with
Yeah.
all the bottles tied, you're like, oh my god, he's done for. Like, they're gonna kill him.
Right.
And then you slowly start figuring it out. You're like, they haven't killed him yet.
Yeah.
Where is this gonna go? And I
I
love the little details they put in that. When he starts running, I'm like, oh, this is about to be insane.
yeah, like one thing I will say, like right, like I thought for sure it was gonna be one of those cases where like monsters take like many forms, and he was gonna be revealed to be like a psycho or something. But I really liked that they just kept him as this like really like just like very cynical, very like broken guy. It is such a perfect mirror to how John Krasinski in the first one was like very like is very proactive, very like he was truly like the defender of the family. And now for Millicent Simmons to be like trying to like pick up this guy's slack, and like him learning from her, like that's just great. Again, like mirrored like storytelling to the first one. That scene on the whole like river people scene, I guess I'll call them, that was great. Like when
That
he just
may
starts
have been my favorite scene.
when he starts running and like he stabs it, I was like, and then yeah, he like stabs the guy in the leg to get him to scream. I was like, this is the most one of the most badass things that, like I've seen all year. And like just a few weeks ago, we saw Dave Bautista killing zombies. So
Yeah,
that sequence was just really great, and also just another great like expanding the world scene. It's like, oh, it's not monsters. Like there's still humans out there, just not all of them are sane at this point.
yeah, I can imagine going insane in that type of world.
Mhm.
But I have to tell you, man, when you find out that those monsters can't swim, I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Because
Right.
I thought this whole island thing was either going to be it's an island you can't get to and the people on there are just there,
Yeah.
or I thought they were going to get in a boat, and I was like, oh, that's going to be
Yeah.
something's going to happen in that boat. But when they couldn't swim and you see the creature drowning in the water, you're like, oh, wow, there really is hope.
It's
And I
yeah.
didn't expect that.
It's just like when what's her name, like Ripley kills the xenomorphs in the Alien franchise. You're like, okay, these things are like hard to kill, yes, but they're not like invulnerable. And it's just nice to see that, like, okay, there is like something, there is hope, there's like a little like thing we could do beyond the whole hearing aid trick they got going on
And how Cillian Murphy keeps that hearing aid
in his
from
mouth. Yeah.
getting damaged. He
Mhm.
keeps it in his mouth so it doesn't get any water in it. I'm like, this dude is killing it. Like
He,
this dude, he's thinking. I love how every character is so smart, but it's so
yep.
realistic, and it doesn't make. There's no logic gaps. It's not like, oh, how would he not think of it? It's like that's the way that you save yourself in this world. You cannot.
Right.
That's your most valuable thing.
I mean, it's Cillian Murphy, man. Like I love the guy. I mean, he is just he's always like someone, one of those actors you can just throw in any situation. He'll be fine performance wise. His performance as Emmett is just really like it's really great, and it really is like I love how he wasn't just some supporting character. He really was like just as much of a main character despite just being introduced.
Yeah, and it fits the story beautifully.
Mhm.
We cut back and forth. Emily Blunt is going to get the oxygen tanks. She visits her little kid's grave, which is a really touching moment, the way it's shot. And I
Mhm.
think they do a great job pacing this and balancing between action sequences and then breathing room.
Yeah.
And I think that was a beautiful place for breathing room. It was natural. It made sense why she had to go back that way.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God. And I love the little notion that she leaves her ring there,
Mhm.
almost as a memorial to her husband.
Right.
I thought that was a beautiful moment. I
A
want to
lot
talk
of
about the train sequence though.
okay.
But actually, do you want to talk about something from this?
I was just because you brought up at least the room, right, the room behind me. Yeah, like a lot of great like little I don't know Chekhov's gun payoffs happened a lot in this movie, which I don't know if it's just me being like just being analytical, but like a lot of little stuff like Cillian Murphy in the flashback going like, what's the symbol for dive, and that comes back in a completely different context later.
Yeah.
Them introducing this whole thing like and how like they don't Murphy never says like you need to leave the towel on. It's just a visual like thing when he locks the door, but it's still enough that when Noah Jupe closes it and the towel isn't there, you're like, oh my god, like he's
Right.
in danger. Like it's a lot of just small like details and like visual payoffs that like really help just keep everything and like the pacing and like context of situations going that I without having to over explain.
I mean, it's such a stunning film. Let's get to the train sequence because I want to talk about this and then the ending on the island.
Yeah.
So the train sequence, I just want to say, I love the moment when the pigeons come flying out and you're like, ah!
Yeah.
I freaked. I was like, oh no, the monster cannot be right there because you think the monster's somewhere like chilling on the train the whole time.
Right.
And then there's that moment where she makes the sound opening that door, and you can just see it out of focus, the monster just creeping up from behind, and you know she can't hear it, man. The way they build tension from that and the way they use different characters to build tension different ways using their POV is just so it's dread in different perspectives, and I loved it.
Yeah. And just the one shot of like her, excuse me, it's like the side of her face and like the and like the far like back in the train is blurry, but you see just the movement of the creature. Like that's just again, this is just great directing, just great visual like storytelling, like that was just really great. Me and my friends were like freaking out. People were freaking out because they were like, it's right there, but she, what's she gonna do? That was another just crazy sequence.
Yeah, and I love how she's trying to put the noise together and shoot the gun,
Mhm.
and she gets the shot off, but it only grazes it and doesn't kill it. And so she's trying to reload. She's not going to reload in time while holding it. It's so heartbreaking, and you're just like, oh no, this is not good. And
Right.
you see, boom, Cillian Murphy shoots it, and you're like, wow, you know
Right.
what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing. They don't have to end that conversation with Emily Blunt and her begging and him saying, yes, I'll go.
Right.
They stop in the middle of that conversation, and there's your answer. And it's
Mhm.
so much more entertaining. It's so much to the point. It's
Yeah.
such better screenwriting to do that.
And yeah,
It's
it's just
so well written and so well.
a lot
And
of
wow.
like don't need like there's a very like no need for redundancy. Just a lot of like this detail is here, this detail is paid off. They draw attention to it without being totally like like obnoxious about it. Like, you know, look at this thing. It's just a lot of like very subtle things that just keep everything going, and it works out really well.
Yeah. Last, let's talk about the boat to the island. I love this scene. I love this hope that they're given at the end of the film. And then you just see Cillian Murphy on the beach and the boat is there. And he knows that's the boat the alien was on. And he can,
Yeah.
I don't know if he hears it exactly. I don't think he hears it, but he can kind of like, he puts two and two together.
Right.
And he's like, oh no. And I love that shot, the tracking shot as he's
Um,
sprinting through and he's saying, get in, screaming, get inside, as the alien is just wrecking people in front of
going
him.
through, right.
And it makes so much sense. He doesn't even try to protect Millicent Simmons because she's like, she knows more than I do.
Yeah.
And they get in that car and it's the three of them driving with, I can't remember the
I don't think
Djimon
he,
Hounsou's
yeah,
character. And I love that scene. You know,
right.
you think they get away for half a second and then boom, the
Still
monster
there.
has teeth that's
Yeah.
chomping at him. And I'm like, oh, that's the first we've seen of that. I love that. And they get to the radio tower. And I love that moment because I'm having that same moment Djimon Hansu's saying of I don't know, did we go too fast? Did it go back to the town? Like he's panicking because he's scared about his kid it's back in town.
You
And
know,
we get that answer, slashes his legs and kills him.
you know, I want to one of these days. I want to see a movie where he doesn't like die or he appears like
Mm-hmm.
he's the new John Barenthal like cameo like joke. I think he showed up in Guardians. He shows up in Fast and Furious. Does like just dips after a while. Like when he died, I was like, oh man, I was just met you. But yes, that was great, and I want to fast forward just to the final sequence because I think more than anything else we have to end there because that was just the some of the most satisfying like full circle like everything comes together endings I can think of I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, gosh, I'm Emily Blunt, and when she's going and she has oxygen tanks and she's blowing up, she knows it's probably not going to kill it, but the noise will get it going in the wrong
Mhm.
direction.
Yeah,
And her just crawling and the creature just its ears are just opening to hear more. It's so beautifully done to just you're just on the edge of your seat. Like, is she gonna make it out?
mhm.
She's no longer like a main character anymore. Like she could die and I could be like, that makes
Right.
sense. In the way that plays out, she gets in, they get inside, and that final scene where it's the monster is comes out from the water because it hears the noise in the water, so it's there.
Mhm.
And she can't, it's clawing at the door, it's clawing at the door. And then Millicent Simmons is there creeping around with Cillian Murphy, trying not to get killed by this monster and get into that radio room. Oh my God. I mean, I thought that was masterfully shot, masterfully edited. The sound was beautiful, like across the board. It's just
Cinematography
spectacular.
too.
Yeah.
Cinematography, like not that the first film was bad in any way, but the cinematography they were really like hit it out of the park. Just like the lighting of the radio tower gave me a lot of like Tenet vibes.
Yeah,
The
it did.
blue, like it was just it was just really perfectly put together climax.
Yeah, I 100% agree. In that moment where Cillian Murphy sacrifices himself
Yeah.
and we're like, oh, he's dead, and it slashes its legs, and she like just holds it off with the sound. I'm like, oh my God. And she hits it completely. And I love how that plays into him with the headphones, hearing that noise and that being like, it makes complete sense that everything going on would happen at the
Right.
same time. He plays it out loud. And I love that moment, that empowering moment where she's moving forward
He's
to
moving
kill the
forward.
creature. He's moving forward to kill the creature. It's such clear symbolism of the two kids growing up.
Mhm.
And
It's
it's such a beautiful transition from the
right.
first film into the second film of
To,
showing how the dad's sacrifice
right.
impacts the children.
To quote the original Superman film, it was like the father, son becomes the father, father becomes the son, and like both the adults are completely not completely helpless, but they're down, they're injured, and just the gosh, the great just visual storytelling directing from Krasinski is just the mirror shots, them like grabbing it, and it's like just really cool that like Millicent Simmons she gets her whole thing with the hearing aid, but like Noah Jupe like figures it out too, and like
Mhm.
they're miles apart, but they all both have the same idea, and just um it's a lot of like Wonder Woman on No Man's Land vibe, just them like walking out, and creatures that have been like just terrorizing them for so many months at this point. They're like fine, the kids are like finally in power, and um like that was just perfect. And it's like an arc that doesn't call attention to itself, but like in this moment you see the full picture, and you're just like, wow, that's just really great. And my friend was asking me like, do you think they'll make a third? And I was like, there's a good chance they probably will for the hell of it. But if I just had to take these two, I'd say this was a perfect like what like story, like beginning to end, book ended here. Everything came full circle, and everyone just, it was a great way to end it.
Yeah, I know John Krasinski says he has the idea for the third.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a third movie.
Mhm.
If it's not directed by him, I'm a little bit more hesitant. But
Right.
if he at least writes it, and hopefully directs it as well, I would be more than thrilled. I think it's just this story is so, it needs to be taken so carefully, and I think he walks that line so beautifully. I have faith if he has an idea for the third, I have faith that he has a good way of continuing
Yeah.
the story. And I
Yeah.
love this ending as we have to wrap up here.
Mhm.
Gives us hope. And if it ended right here, it makes sense. We could think, oh, they'll probably just go back, get those two, and bring them to the island, or the three with the baby.
Right.
And it gives you hope, but it also shows you that nowhere is really safe. This island, they thought they were safe, but a alien just was on a boat and made it onto the island and almost killed everyone.
Right.
Like, no one is safe. Like, I love how they reinforce that idea even
Right.
in what seems to be a paradise.
Right. It was just perfect way to cap off a very crazy, crazy. What was it, like 2 hours? Not even. Didn't
Yeah.
even feel like it.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half. It's 90 minute
That is
story.
incredible. Just
Yeah.
great stuff.
I know I'm going to be checking it out again sometime this week.
Mhm.
Let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below about this movie. What were your favorite moments? What was your favorite part, scene of the movie? Do you want to see a sequel? Complete the trilogy? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.